Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, thanks for visiting Learn with Us podcast with me, Benfika Fiden F, and I am not alone here. Next to me is my friend, namely
Salsabila Alifia K.
And in this occasion, we want to talk about place of articulation, manner of articulation, and activity of vocal cords. First material will be delivered by Salsabila.
Okay, thank you, Eti. Now I will explain about place of articulation or point of articulation. Place of articulation or point of articulation indicates where in the mouth obstruction is occurring when a consonant is formed. To create an obstruction, two bits of your mouth need to be brought together the articulators. One articulator will move the active articulator and one will remain stationary. The passive articulator takes the F sound like fish, for example. Here the lower lips is the active articulator and the upper teeth are the passive articulator. The lower lip moves to the upper teeth and obstruction is created. Air is blown, tough and boom. You get F sound. There are about 12 places in the mouth where the articulators can be brought together to form an obstruction. There are bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, postalveolar, retoflex, palatal, velar, uvular, pharyngeal, epiglottal, and glottal. First is bilabial. Here distraction is created using both the upper and lower lips. In English, we have 4 bilabial consonants like m as in main, p as in pen, b as in pen, w and as in water. Second is labiodental. Here the lower lip contacts the upper teeth to form sound like v as in fish and v as in fan. Third is dental. Here the tip of the tongue touches the upper teeth. We have 2 sounds here in English like the as in thin and the as in this. Alveolar. Here the obstruction occurs at the alveolar ridge, that funny ridge just behind the upper teeth. We have 8 sounds in English. Na as in nail, ta as in town, da as in dog, sa as in sun, za as in zoo, ra as in run, and la as in love. Next is postalveolar or platealveolar. This is the same as alveolar except the tongue moves back about a centimeter in the mouth. In English, have 2 sounds here like sha as in shine and za as in vision. Retoflex. We have no retoflex consonant in English. They are formed by curling the tongue back into the mouth and touching the roof of the mouth in the general post-alveolar area. The sound a little like ta, as in tapu in Hindi, da, as in north in Swedish. Next is palatal. Palatal are where the body of the tongue is raised to the hard palate. In English, only one sound. Here, ya, as in yes. Next, velar. Here the obstruction occurs, tongue touches the soft palate at the back of the mouth. In English, have two sound here, ka as in king and ga as in garden. Uvula. Here the back of the tongue touches the uvula, that dangly bit at the back your mouth. The words like friend, creator, a uvula trill, ra as in rendezvous. Perineal. Here's where things start to get bit weird. With root of the tongue against the pharynx. In English, like na, as in help. Next is epiglottal. Epiglottal, as hard as pharyngeal area to pronounce. And the last is glottal. They are articulated using the glottis, as English has two glottal sound, h as in home, and the glottal stop as in the little cage of air, the throat between as in oh. Okay, that's enough for my explanation. Now it's Benfika turn. Time is yours.
Thank you for your clear explanation, Bill. Okay, in this section, we want to discuss about manner of articulation. In articulatory phonetics, the manner of articulation is the configuration and interaction of the articulators, speech organs, such as the tongue, lips, and palate. When making a speech sound, the concept of manner is mainly used in the dislocation of consonants. Although the movement of the articulators will also greatly alter the resonant properties of the vocal tract, thereby changing the form and structure of speech sounds that is crucial for the identification of vowels. First individual's manners is stops. Stops, often called applosive, is an oral occlusive produced by a complete closure of the lips and subsequent release. Where there is occlusion or blocking of the oral vocal tract and no nasal airflow, so the airflow stops completely. For example, when we produce sounds p, voiceless, and p, voice. For examples, when we pronounce p for when we pronounce pen for p sound, and when we pronounce bat for p sound. If the consonant is voiced, the voicing is the only sound made during occlusion. If it is voiceless, the stop is completely silent. Second, fricatives. Fricative sometimes is called spirant, where there is continuous frication, turbulent, and noisy airflow at the place of articulation, produced by almost blocking the air stream. For example, when we produce sound and s for voiceless sound, and v and z for voice sound, and etc. Third, abricats. can be described as stops plus fricatives, which begin like a stop, but this releases into fricative rather than having a separate release of its own. Aggregates are quite common around the world, though less common than fricatives. For example, when we produce sound ch and j represent aggregates. Ch for church and chapter, and ch for germ, h and journal. Fourth, nasals. A nasal occlusive produced when the volume is lowered and the airstream is allowed to flow out through the nose. The shape and position of tongue determine the resonant cavity that gives different nasals their characteristic sounds. For example, consonant sounds produce m, n, and m for morning, n for knitting. Fifth for liquids and glits. Both terms describe articulations that are midway between true consonants and vowels. The consonant sounds produce l and r. L for life and like, r for red and rest. Next, let's move to discuss about activity of vocal cords. Activity of vocal cords in the throat is the larynx, which is located just inside the Adam's apple, the part of throat that protrudes in a man and in the corresponding area in a woman. It has an important apparatus called vocal cords. They are the two thick flaps of muscle, rather like a pair of lips. These vocal cords are situated horizontally in the larynx, which can be made to assume various positions. In normal breathing, the two vocal cords are widely separated, and thus the air can go in and out freely. They can be made in tight contact with each other or completely closed so that no air can pass out through the larynx. This happens when someone wants to collect his strength in lifting something heavy or, for instance, a childbirth. Okay, next. More material will be delivered by Salsabila.
Okay, in speaking, the vocal cords can interfere with the flow of air in various ways. They can be put in light contact to each other, so that there is small opening in between. This is called glottis. When the air is forced to go out through the small opening between the two vocal cords, it causes them to open and close successively. It means the vocal cords are made to vibrate. The vibration of vocal cord produces the speech sound called voice. Voice is very important in speaking a language since most of the speech sounds are voiced sound. The first interference with the airstream therefore takes place in the larynx by the activity of vocal cord. Accordingly, in the production of speech sound, the vocal cord can be made to vibrate in producing voice sound, or not to vibrate in producing voiceless sound. Above the larynx is located the pharynx or pharyngeal cavity, which acts as a resonating chamber for the sound produced by vibration of vocal cord. The shape of this cavity can be modified so that airstream can be completely or partially obstructed by the action of the soft palate or the tongue. Okay, the last part, I will conclude this podcast. Maybe there are still many material that we have not delivered perfectly today. From this, we can conclude that in place of articulation, there are about 12 places in the mouth where the articulators can be brought together to form an obstruction. There are bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, postalveolar, retroflex, palatal, velar, uvular, pharyngeal, and epiglottal and glottal. In manner of articulation, there are 5 individual manners of articulation, namely stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, liquid, and glitz. The activity of vocal cord is to producing out of speech sound. The vocal cord can be made to vibrate or not. If it vibrates, the vocal cord will be producing voice sound. But if not vibrate, it will be producing voiceless sound. The activity of vocal cord takes place in larynx is the function to interference the airstream, and the last place is pharyngeal is the resonating chamber of the sound. Okay, thank you for listening our podcast.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.